Alright guys, the time is finally here to get my YouTube channel underway. I've spent months trying to think about how I could create a channel that would somehow add some new value. You know, there's a lot of channels out there that talk about everything from watch reviews to watch industry news to what's going on in the market, and there's even some that talk about the lives of the dealers, but there's none of them that really go in depth behind the scenes and kind of what it's like to really be a watch dealer, or what we go through on a daily basis. You know, one of my favorite YouTube channels is Producer Michael. And what you see a lot is you see a lot of the glitz and the glam. You see him showing up in his Rolls Royce or Ferrari, and he's touring these beautiful mansions in Bel Air and Beverly Hills, or he's shopping on Rodeo Drive. But what you don't ever see is the early mornings, the late nights, the planning, the meetings, all the organization that goes into getting that together, and then on top of that, all the things that go wrong. You never see the bloopers, you never see the outtakes. And that's what I'm always interested in. I think it kind of tells another side of a story that you don't hear about and people don't like to share. And so I'm hoping to maybe shed some light on that and just bring a little more interesting entertainment to this. Now, I definitely plan on talking about a lot of the typical stuff, you know, watch reviews, industry news, what's going on in the market. But I also want to cover some topics that I get a lot of questions about. Stuff like, what should I get for my first watch? What should I get my wife for Valentine's Day? What should I get my husband? How do I choose between this brand or that brand? I want to get a little more related to what the customers are generally asking me in my store, and I want to share that info with you. So before we get into that, I want you to really know who I am and get an understanding of where I come from, how I got into the business, and what ultimately led me to this industry. My story is definitely an interesting one, and I think you will appreciate it. So I've put together a little video that I hope you'll enjoy. Here it is. So I was born in Lewisville, Texas, about 15 minutes outside of Dallas. I was adopted, my brother and we grew up in Sherman, Texas. So we grew up, went to school out there, were raised in the small town, but I never really was quite the fan of small town living. And I always knew that whenever I graduated high school and became an adult, I wanted to get to the big city. When we were younger, we used to travel to Dallas and have dinner down there, spend the evenings out there, and I knew one day I was gonna move out there, and that was gonna be home. So I would say within a month after graduating high school, I was packing my stuff up and I was on my way. I've done a lot of stuff in my adulthood. I've been everything from a waiter, a bartender. I was a salesman. I was the annoying call person, dialing your number 300 times a day and trying to get you to pay your medical bills and getting hung up on. The corporate environment never was for me. When I moved to Dallas, I became a personal trainer, and I was working 9-10 hours a day, picking up client after client after client, and then I'd go bartend on the nights. So Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday nights. I worked at a different bar every night, and I only picked the bars at the hot spots. So Thursday night hot spot, I was there. Friday night hot spot, I was there. Saturday, Sunday, and I was doing well. I'm meeting some of the coolest people around here, and I'm still young. I'm like 19, 20 years old, and I got caught up in the action. Got into partying 4 or 5 nights a week. My clients were always out. They always knew everyone, and it catches you real quick when you go from a life of real restricted living to no restrictions at all, and you're making pretty good money at your age. It's easy to get carried away, and that's exactly what I did. Started having run-ins with the law, drunken fights at bars. I ended up, when I was 20 years old, I bought a motorcycle and was being a little bit reckless, and took a spin down Highway 75 and got pulled over, and I ended up running. Well, 45-minute chase, a couple helicopters, who knows how many police cars. I finally get caught, and I go to prison. year behind bars at 20 years old. I get out just after my 21st birthday. You know, I swore it was gonna be a brand new start. I was really gonna make something of my life. No, nothing changed. I got back into bartending, still doing a little bit of training, but this time I did make a little step. I went and got my real estate license, and I got on a team with Coldwell Banker, and I started working my way up the ladder. One thing about me was that no matter how much trouble I got into when I was young, I always managed to outweigh it or justify it in my mind by working even harder. If I was making more money and I was putting more hours in at work, it didn't really matter what kind of side trouble I was getting into or how hard I was partying. And that's just how it resonated in my mind. A few years go by, another DWI here, another DWI here. I finally thought, you know, it's Dallas is the problem. So I packed all my stuff, moved away to Miami. I thought that was the saving grace. I was gonna make it in Miami. If you thought Dallas was big on a scale, Miami was 20 times bigger, and everyone there had more and went harder, and it just was, that's the kind of place that'll suck you up if you're not ready for it. The thing that prompted me to move to Miami though was I had recently just gotten my second DUI, and then after I'd ended that, I got news that my brother was killed. And this is my twin brother. So he was killed in an alcohol-related motorcycle wreck. At that point, I just kind of lost it. I just got to a point where I thought I was invincible and I couldn't be touched, nor could I be stopped. I'd been pulled over multiple times, drinking and driving, and never came close. And then one day I was actually sitting in my car, getting my car from the valet, and a cop walked up on me. That ultimately landed me my third DUI, which then landed me again in prison, this time for 11 months. A little backstory on that: before all this happened, I had met a girl and we had a night together, which resulted in my son, Soren. He was born on October 15th, 2016, and I was on my way to prison. I missed my only child's birth. I missed the first 9 months of his life. During that process, it finally hit me. When I got out and I was able to finally talk to him on the phone and really see him in a video, face to face, this switch came on. I got out in June 12th of 2017, and I had to go to a halfway house at the Salvation Army for 3 months. So I'm sitting here, I'm in this halfway house, and they let you out, 4 to 5 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week with the purpose of getting a job. But we all know that you can't really, nobody's hiring nobody's ex-felons that are recently out of prison that come in and say, hey, I need a job, but I can only work 3 days a week for 4 hours a day. They're just kind of like, go on, we can't help you. I remember back, I'd always had this passion for watches. When high school, I got my first watch. It was like this blinking Fossil watch where the dial blinked blue and red. And I thought I was just the coolest kid in high school. I got that my sophomore year. My junior year, I bought another one that blinked blue and green. Now I was really the coolest kid in high school because nobody else had 2 watches, much less 2 watches that blinked colors. When I got out of high school and started working and earning money, I'd buy little watches here and there, and typically my price range was between $300 to $700. And I remember at one point, I had all my watches laid out on the table, and I think I had like 45 watches. every different style, every different in the price range, every different complication, I had a different watch for every day of the month, and that's what I liked. No matter the occasion, I always wanted to be wearing something different. As my income went up, the caliber of the watches that I had went up, and when I went to prison, I lost it all. I'm in the halfway house, and I'm trying to think of what am I gonna do when I get out of here? Like, what can I do now to start making some money, but what am I really gonna do when I get out of there? Real estate wasn't it, personal training wasn't it, never went to college, and I'm also a felon. So the idea of walking into a regular job, one, didn't excite me, nor was it gonna be feasible. And for whatever reason, I had this weird idea that I was gonna be a watch dealer. Where it came from, I couldn't tell you. I didn't see an ad anywhere. I didn't take an aptitude test that they tell you and they say, you're gonna be a watch dealer. I think I remembered missing having a watch because they wouldn't let you wear one in the halfway house. And whatever reason, it just made me think that's what you're gonna do. I found a course online that somewhat taught watch trading. I took it and there was a little bit of valuable information. It wasn't near anything that was really gonna make me what I've created today. And I remember the first deal I ever did was I found this watch on Craigslist in Oklahoma City. And the guy, it was a Tag Heuer, and the guy wanted like $2,100 for it. So we went back and forth for a couple days, and I negotiated it down to $1,300, and I drove halfway to meet him. He come and dropped it off. I got it back, and I took some pictures of it, posted it on Facebook and on a couple other sites online, and within 3 days I sold it for $1,800, and I made a $500 profit. Keep in mind, I've been in a halfway house for I think 2 months at this point, and there's guys going out every single day working 4, 5, 6 hours, and the whole time they've been working they haven't made $500, and I just did it in 2 days working for 2 hours. That's when this light bulb came on. Got out of the halfway house, now I'm buying 2 watches at a time and 3 watches at a time, and I'm spending all of my time thinking about how I can network and meet more watch dealers, meet more watch clients. I got a job at a gym working the front desk. Something that would get me up early and have a little bit of structure in my life, but I also got, I like the gym and that's what I knew, and it would be easy for me to get that job. So I was sitting there in the office one day, and at the time I was wearing a Breitling Chronomat 39 two-tone with a gold dial and blue subdials. It was one of my first high-end watches that luckily I did not have to get rid of when I went to prison. It was cheap enough I could keep it. I took that watch off and I put it down on the desk, and I took a picture of it, and I started an Instagram account, and when I first started it, I just named it my first name, and that was it. But I kept thinking, I was like, I've got to name this something that one day somebody's gonna walk up to me and say, hey, and that's what I had to figure out. What is this person gonna call me? And I came up with the Timepiece Gentleman. It just sounded kind of bizarre and out there and maybe a little cocky, I don't know. But what it did have, it had great SEO. If you Googled at that time, the Timepiece Gentleman, Gentleman Timepiece, timepieces for gentlemen, there was absolutely no search results for that related to those keywords. So I came up with a name that had all the SEO I ever needed just in the name, and that's when it was born. And then I think I created that Instagram account on September 15th or so. It was like 3 days after I got out of the halfway house, which I got out on September 12th, 2017. And I got in, started posting pictures of other people's watches. I took a course on Instagram. I practiced every day, and I just started learning how to post every day. And here we are almost 3 years later, and I've built what I've got today. Yeah, man, things are good today. It's been a wild ride though. My journey into the watch business was not an easy one. One of the driving factors I can remember vividly, and I think about it a lot, was I was in a dealer group and I was showing off a picture that I drew. One of my hobbies is drawing. And naturally, being in the watch business, I started drawing watches. And I remember posting this picture and asking these guys what they thought, and a specific dealer made the exact comment saying, I think you're gonna make a lot more money drawing watches or in art than you ever will as a dealer. And I always think about that because I've made a decent amount of money selling watches and I still have yet to sell a piece of art. It's funny how a little thing like that can light this fire that keeps you going and doesn't let me stop. And I've done a ton of stuff that most people would have stopped. I've made controversial comments, I've pissed off dealers, I've been led into Facebook groups, kicked back out, I've lost money, I've lost watches, I've been hit hard financially. A lot of people in this position and going through some of the stuff I've gone through, they would have quit. But, you know, it's just a lesson. I learned it and kept going. And I don't care how many dealers tell me I'm not gonna do this or I'm not gonna be big. I won't take it. I'm gonna keep getting bigger and keep pushing and keep growing. When I first got started, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on advertising, nor did I really want to. I also wasn't well known to a lot of dealers, so the only way I was gonna get my name out there was actually getting out there and meeting people on a one-by-one basis, face-to-face basis. And I came up with this system where breakfast, lunch, and dinner, coffee, gyms, everything I was strategic about. I only had coffee where wealthy people had coffee. I only had lunch where businessmen were crowding the places. I only had dinner at nice restaurants, and I did this every single day. And it wasn't just going to eat there, it was strategic. When I walked in, I got to where I could quickly scan a room and find a person wearing a nice watch and position myself to the right of him where my watch was on the left, right in his face. And the goal was every night was I had to get someone to initiate a conversation, compliment me, I could compliment him on his watch, and we could strike up a conversation. And as it flowed, if it flowed, I would engage him and get to know the person and get to know, is this a potential client or is this just someone with a nice watch? And half the time it worked, half the time it didn't. But the half the time it did, that's what got my name out there. I met client after client. I remember going to Moxie's. I used to live across the street and there's this little real high-end sports bar called Moxie's Grill. I ate lunch and dinner there every day for almost 6 months. And I think that, just that one thing, I became known as the watch guy throughout that building. And it's funny, that building now, a year and a half later, is where I'm trying to get retail space. Anytime I go to Moxie's, someone recognizes me. And that was it. That was the key, is I was posting on social media all day long. I was eating out, and every single person that had a watch on, I was talking to them. If it was nothing more than, hey, I like your watch, that was all I needed. Hey, I like your watch. Hey, I like your watch. Maybe they compliment me back, maybe they don't. And if they did, I would, like I said, I would engage in some conversation, try to get it in there that I'm a dealer in the business, I could help them find their next piece, and it worked, man. I built up a solid little base. It wasn't, I did that for 6, 7, 8 months on my own, and I eventually got introduced to a new dealer group where I made a deal with a local dealer. I realized he was local after we made a deal, and it was my partner Marco. We met at this Starbucks and we did this little deal, and it was just kind of an in and out. I bought a watch from him, went on my way. About a week later, I did another deal with him. And then another week after that, I did another week, and him and I got to talking, and what I realized finally was that he was buying watches on a wholesale level and I was selling them at a retail level. He wanted to be able to buy or he wanted to be able to sell where I was selling them at, and I wanted to be able to buy where he was buying them at. And if we could put those two together, it'd be unstoppable. And so that's what we did. He also had the network of dealers, and I had the social media influence. You put 2 and 2 together and we have what we have today. So Marco and I, we work really well together because he has his strengths that happen to be my weaknesses, and I have my strengths that just so happen to be his weaknesses as well. You put those two together and it just, somehow it works. The other day, a client was talking to me and he asked me what I thought the biggest driving factor was to the success I've got in this business. And when I say I mean my partner and I. I say I just because it's natural tendency, but I'm talking about Marco, myself, the business that we've built together. Because without him, I couldn't have built it. But they asked me, what do I think has gotten us to where it is today? And I think I'm not afraid to try something new or take a big risk. And a lot of people, You know, they get set in their ways. This is the way we've done it for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And if you go outside that way, you're breaking tradition. Well, times change, people evolve, things evolve. And social media, when everyone was turning to Facebook ads and Google and SEO and big fancy storefronts, I didn't. That cost too much money. I didn't have that money. I resorted to Instagram, Facebook, forums, getting online, going out, meeting people. I wrapped my car the other day with logos all over it, with watches and my information, and people, I don't even remember how many people told me how stupid that was gonna be and how I was gonna get robbed. Well, if anything, I've paid for that wrap 10 times over. Every day people walk up to me and they tell me how clever that was. People actually in the street, not dealers in the groups. What I think ultimately led to our success was just trying stuff new, not being afraid to push the limits and say something that might offend people. Now, I have said stuff that offended people and I got backlash for it, and I do apologize about that. But you know what, in the same instance, it got my name everywhere. I think that where I saw a gap was that a lot of dealers and people in the industry are afraid to reach out and kind of put their business out there on social media. It's almost as if it's this secret society and nobody wants to let individuals know how we operate. And I wasn't afraid to do that. I wasn't afraid about, showing behind the scenes. I wasn't afraid to hold watches over a balcony. I wasn't afraid to kind of really talk about what goes on and show what goes on and really give people a look into the industry via social media. And because of that, my name and my brand and our company it's a little bit of everywhere. And that's ultimately how I saw it. I was like, the only way I'm gonna get big without spending a fortune on advertising is to make sure that I am everywhere anyone looking for a watch would be looking. And it worked. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that and feel like you've got a little bit of insight into my life and my story that ultimately got me here. Now, I could go on and on for hours about some of the ups and the downs that I've experienced along the way, and I do want to share those stories, but I want to do it when the stories are relevant to some content and I can provide not only a positive or negative experience I went through, but I can also teach a lesson along with it. I've got some stories, everything from lucky breaks to tragic outcomes, stuff like losing a $30,000 watch, getting hit with check fraud, wire fraud, mail fraud, you name it, we've pretty much seen it. And those are some of the stories that I want to space out and deliver them along the way as the time comes. Now, in the beginning of this video, I told you guys after I shared my story, I was going to introduce my first topic based on buying your first luxury watch. There's a lot of good info out there, but there's a lot of shortfalls. And I wanted to cover all those to help you make a good decision. We actually went through the filming process and we got a lot of good content in there, but as I was watching it, I realized I left out a few key points that I would want to know as a first-time buyer. So I want to postpone that content for this video, and it's going to be in a very, very soon upcoming video, maybe next week or so. I want to get the content on there and added and perfect in my mind for you to help you make a better informed decision. So be on the lookout for that. What I will say though is during the filming, I got a call from a good friend of mine out in Miami. He's a dealer and he's got one of the most impressive inventories I've ever seen, and it's consistently or continually changing. He gave me a call and I had him shout him out. So I just wanted to share some of that footage with you and introduce you to another guy. So here he is. Oh shit, I gotta answer this real quick. Sorry.
Every time you clap, she's
Yo,
like,
what up?
Hey, bro.
What's up?
Yo, that Patek, I have a client for it, bro. Where's my picture?
The Celestial?
Yeah, I have a client that I can sell it to.
Okay, hang on. Let me message him. He's supposed to get me... He's going to dinner with the guy tonight to get it. Let me text him right now and see if I can get him to get me some ASAP. How much do you have it sold for?
I need need to show pictures to my client, but I'm gonna get you 200.
Perfect. Okay.
Or try to at least, but I need pictures. He'll buy it though.
Okay. All right. Let me work on that today.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Hey, Sean. Say hi. You're in the middle of my filming right now on YouTube for my first episode.
Really?
Yeah, say hi.
That's incredible. I'm honored.
Tell my guest where you're from and who you are.
So my name is Sean LaFerrin. I'm originally from New York, Long Island, New York. I recently moved to Miami for us to open one of our first offices here. I'm a wholesaler. I deal primarily in Richard Mille, Audemars Piguet, and Patek Philippe. And I actually just recently met Anthony. He took a flight over here to meet me. Great guy. Great experience with him. And definitely a very knowledgeable guy. And I look forward to doing more business with him.
Awesome. Thanks for the online, or is it on-air testimonial? All right. Sean is a great guy, guys. If you're in Miami and you're looking for any of that crazy stuff, Richard Milles, Patek's AP, this is your guy. And I will link his info below and his Instagram. So, all right, Sean, take it easy. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Okay, everyone. I've thoroughly enjoyed filming the first of what's going to become many, many videos for this series and this channel. I invite you, if you liked it as well, to please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I've got multiple videos coming up. The very next one being one that is a popular topic today, but I feel the videos out there fall short of information, and I'm going to discuss spotting 30 differences in a fake Hulk, a super clone Hulk, and an authentic one. So I've got 3 watches coming for you. I'm going to point out 30 different things you should look for, and I'm going to show you in real time comparisons. So look forward to seeing you in the next video, guys. Take care.